Zuba held the test strip in her hand, shaking, 2 pink lines. She smiled until she saw her husband's face turn stone cold. "If you don't get rid of it, you can pack your things." She stared at him, tears burning her eyes. And that night, she chose the baby. Years later, the world would know that child's name, louder than his father ever screamed. Zuba was a simple woman, with simple dreams. She didn't wish for riches or fame. All she ever wanted was a small home where she could feel safe, a husband who would love and respect her, and little children she could sing to sleep at night. When she met Effie, she believed all her prayers had been answered. He was full of charm, always smiling, always saying the right words. Her mother even told her, "Zuba, this man will take care of you. You're lucky." And at first, it truly felt that way. Effie would bring her small gifts, tell her sweet things, and promise a beautiful future. Zuba's heart was full of hope and trust. But not long after the wedding, things began to change. Effie's sweet words turned into cold orders. His warm smiles became hard stares. Little by little, Zuba felt herself shrinking in the marriage. It was like she had become a prisoner inside the home she once dreamed of. Effie wanted to control everything: what she wore, who she talked to, even what she thought. If she disagreed with him, he would get angry, shout, or stay silent for days to punish her. Zuba missed the happy man she married, but she kept telling herself it was just a phase. Maybe he was stressed. Maybe she could fix it. She kept trying, kept smiling, kept hoping that the man she fell in love with would come back. But deep down, a part of her started to feel scared and lonely and trapped. This was not the life she had wished for. This was not the dream she had grown up holding close to her heart. Still, Zuba stayed, believing love could heal everything. She stayed because she was taught that marriage meant patience. She stayed because she didn't want to disappoint her mother. She stayed because she still had hope. Hope that one day Effie would look at her with the same kind eyes he once had. Hope that maybe, just maybe, she would still get the simple joys she had always wanted. But life had different plans for Zuba. Plans that would break her heart before building her strength. Plans that would show her how much power she carried inside her, even when the world tried to crush it. 3 years had passed, and every day for Zuba felt like walking on broken glass. She was always careful with her words, careful with her actions, afraid of making Effie angry. She missed the days when love between them felt easy and light. But even in all the sadness, a small miracle happened. One morning, Zuba held a pregnancy test in her shaking hands, and 2 pink lines appeared. Her eyes filled with tears, but this time they were happy tears. Her heart danced inside her chest. Finally, she thought, this baby would bring light back into her life. Maybe Effie would be happy. Maybe everything would change for the better. With a big smile on her face and hope in her heart, Zuba went to Effie and told him the news. She expected him to lift her up in joy, to hug her, to celebrate. But Effie just stared at her coldly, as if she had said something terrible. His face didn't show happiness. It showed anger. He didn't say congratulations. He didn't even smile. Instead, he accused her. He said she got pregnant on purpose to trap him. He said she had ruined all the big plans he had for his future. His words cut her deeper than any knife could. Zuba stood there, frozen, as Effie's voice grew louder and louder. Then he pointed at the door. His words hit her like a slap. "Either the baby goes," he said without any feeling in his voice, "or you do." For a moment, Zuba couldn't move. She felt like the floor had disappeared under her feet. The man she loved, the man she built her life around, was telling her to choose. Choose between him and the tiny life growing inside her. Tears burned her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. In that painful moment, something inside Zuba woke up. She realized this was not love, this was not family, and this was not the future she wanted for her child. Even though her heart was breaking into pieces, she knew she had to protect the little life inside her. Effie's coldness made the decision clear. If she had to leave everything behind to save her baby, then that's exactly what she would do. Without another word, Zuba turned and walked away, her hand resting gently on her stomach. She knew she had a hard road ahead. She knew it would not be easy. But deep inside, she also knew something even more important. She was not alone anymore. She had a tiny heartbeat inside her, and that was all the courage she needed to face whatever was coming. That night, while the world outside was quiet and the stars filled the sky, Zuba sat alone in the small bedroom she once called home. Her hands moved slowly, folding clothes and packing them into a worn-out suitcase. Every shirt, every dress she folded carried a memory, some good, but many painful. Her heart felt heavy, but her mind was clear. There was no begging, no second-guessing. She knew she couldn't stay where she and her baby were not wanted, so she packed her life into one small suitcase, her hands trembling but steady. She didn't have much, just a few clothes, a photo of her late father, and a tiny amount of money she had secretly saved from housekeeping jobs Effie never cared to know about. It wasn't even enough for a week's rent anywhere, but it was enough for a bus ride out of that cold house. Enough for a new start somewhere, somehow. She wasn't thinking about where she would sleep or how she would survive. She just knew she had to leave before she lost everything, even herself. Before leaving, Zuba looked around the room one last time. The bed where she once dreamed of building a family. The walls that once echoed with laughter now stood silent, heavy with disappointment. She wasn't just leaving a house. She was leaving a dream, a promise that had turned into a prison. She placed her hand gently on her stomach and whispered, "It's just you and me now." Tears welled up in her eyes, but she wiped them quickly. She couldn't afford to fall apart, not now. As she zipped up her suitcase, every sound felt louder in the quiet house. She moved carefully, afraid that if Effie heard her, he would find a way to stop her. But he didn't care enough to notice. He had already made his choice when he told her to choose. So, in the middle of the night, with her heart pounding in her chest, Zuba pulled her small suitcase out the door. She closed it softly behind her, not looking back. The air outside was cold and the streets were dark, but for the first time in a long time, she felt something strange and powerful. Freedom. Fear walked beside her, but so did hope. Hope for a better life. Hope for a future where she and her baby would be loved, not rejected. She didn't know where the road would take her. She didn't know how she would survive, but with every step away from that house, she felt lighter. Zuba had left behind her home, her comfort, and the man who once promised her forever. But she carried with her something far more important, a little heartbeat, growing stronger each day, and a dream that one day they would both have a life full of love, music, and happiness. And that tiny hope inside her was worth more than anything she had ever left behind. Zuba's first night away from the house was cold and lonely. She didn't know where to go, so she wandered the streets until she found a women's centre. It wasn't much, just a small building with cracked walls and tired-looking beds. But to Zuba, it felt like a safe place. They gave her a warm meal and a place to sleep. She hugged her small suitcase close that night, her hand resting gently on her belly, feeling the tiny life growing inside her. She whispered softly, promising her baby that better days were coming. The next morning, Zuba didn't waste time. She asked around if anyone knew of a job. She didn't care what it was. She just needed something, anything. After days of asking and knocking on doors, she finally got a job as a cleaner at a local restaurant. The pay was very little, but it was something she could hold on to. Every day, she scrubbed floors, cleaned tables, and washed toilets, with her growing belly making it harder and harder to move. The work was tough, and by nightfall, her feet would swell so badly that it hurt just to walk. After work, Zuba would sit on the thin mattress at the shelter, take off her worn-out shoes, and gently massage her aching feet. Even though she was exhausted, she would smile and hum soft lullabies to her belly, songs her own mother used to sing to her when she was little. She wanted her baby to feel loved, even before entering the world. She wanted her baby to hear only sweet, hopeful sounds, not sadness or anger. Many people at the shelter looked at Zuba with pity. They saw a young, pregnant woman with nothing to her name. Some would shake their heads and whisper about how hard her life must be, but they didn't really see her. They didn't see the fire burning inside her heart. They didn't see the strength she carried like a shield every single day. Zuba wasn't just surviving. She was fighting for a future, for her child, for herself. Every night before she fell asleep, she would make promises to her unborn baby. She swore that no matter how tough things got, she would never give up. She would raise her child with pride, not shame. Her baby would know love, safety, and happiness, not fear, control, or sadness. She didn't know exactly how she would do it yet, but she believed with everything in her that she would find a way. Zuba was no longer the scared, quiet girl who packed her bags in the dark. She had become a mother who would walk through fire if she had to, With swollen feet, tired eyes, and a strong, beating heart, Zuba kept moving forward, one small step at a time, holding on to hope, holding on to her dreams. Because sometimes, that's all you need to build a brand new life. The day Zuba gave birth, the whole hospital room seemed to shake with the sound of her baby's cry. Little Nyara came into the world with a voice so strong that even the nurses looked at each other in surprise. Zuba, holding her tiny daughter for the first time, smiled through her tears. She whispered, "You have a powerful voice, my little one. You are meant for great things." From that moment, Zuba knew that Nyara was special. As Nyara grew, her voice only became more beautiful and powerful. Even as a baby, she would hum little sounds that were soft and sweet, and everyone around her would stop to listen. By the time she turned 5, her singing had become something magical. When Nyara sang, her voice filled the room like sunlight pouring through a window. She could reach notes so high and clear that even grown musicians would struggle to match her. People on the street would pause outside their windows just to listen to her voice floating through the air. One afternoon, while Nyara was singing to herself outside the shelter, a local music teacher was walking by. The teacher stopped, stunned by the pure, strong sound coming from such a small child. She followed the sound and found Nyara sitting on a step, singing to her dolls. The teacher couldn't believe her ears. She rushed to find Zuba and said, "Please, let me train your daughter. Her voice is a gift. It needs to be shared with the world." At first, Zuba hesitated. She had nothing to offer. No money for lessons, no fancy clothes for performances. But the teacher shook her head and said, "I don't want anything. This kind of talent must be protected. I will teach her for free." Tears filled Zuba's eyes. For the first time in a long time, she felt like life was opening a door instead of closing one. Nyara started lessons the very next day. She practiced every afternoon after school, singing until the sun went down. The teacher worked with her patiently, showing her how to use her voice even better, how to hold her notes longer, how to sing with emotion. Nyara loved every moment. Singing made her feel alive, like she could fly. It was more than just a voice. It was her magic, her light, her gift to the world. Zuba watched her daughter with pride bursting in her heart. She remembered all the hard nights, the pain, the loneliness. It all made sense now. Every struggle had been worth it to see Nyara standing tall, singing like an angel. Zuba knew deep inside that her daughter's voice would one day lift them both out of the life of struggle and into a life filled with dreams coming true. When Nyara turned 9, something happened that would change their lives forever. There was a big singing competition happening in the city. The teacher who had been training Nyara begged Zuba to let her join. At first, Zuba was scared. She didn't want her little girl to face rejection or get hurt. But then she looked at Nyara's bright, hopeful eyes and knew she had to let her try. So, with a simple borrowed dress and worn-out shoes, Nyara walked onto a big stage for the very first time. The lights were so bright that Nyara had to blink a few times. The crowd was full of strangers. But when the music started, it was like the whole world melted away. Nyara closed her eyes and sang from her heart, just like she always did when it was just her and her mama. Her voice soared through the hall, soft at first, then strong and beautiful, filling every corner. People gasped. Some even had tears in their eyes. When she finished, there was silence for a second, and then a huge wave of clapping and shouting filled the air. Everyone jumped to their feet. Nyara had captured their hearts. Someone from the audience recorded her performance and posted it online that night. By the next morning, the video had exploded. It was everywhere, Facebook, Instagram, even on TV. People were asking, "Who is this little girl with the golden voice? Where has she been hiding all this time?" Nyara became a star overnight. She had touched something deep inside everyone who heard her sing. Very quickly, talent agents started calling. They wanted to meet Nyara, sign her, promise her big things. They showed up with gifts and fancy offers, talking about big stages and bright lights. But Zuba, who was working 2 jobs just to keep a roof over their heads, was very careful. She had seen the world and knew not everyone who smiled had good intentions. She held Nyara close, listened carefully to every offer, and said no to anything that didn't feel right. She promised herself she would protect Nyara's gift, no matter what. Still, deep inside, Zuba knew something important had changed. She realized that Nyara's voice wasn't just something beautiful, it was a light that the whole world needed to see. Her daughter wasn't meant to be hidden away in shelters and street corners. Nyara was born to shine, to sing on stages bigger than they could imagine. And for the first time in a long, long while, hope didn't just whisper, it sang loudly inside Zuba's heart. Her little girl was going to change the world, and this was just the beginning. Many years had gone by. Effie had moved on with his life. He remarried another woman, started a new family, and tried to forget about Zuba and the baby he once rejected. To him, it was all in the past, buried deep where he didn't have to think about it. Life was not perfect for him, but it was comfortable enough. He thought he had made all the right choices. He believed he had left all the mistakes behind. One quiet evening, Effie was sitting in his living room, a glass of wine in his hand, lazily flipping through TV channels. He wasn't really paying attention to anything until a beautiful young girl's voice made him pause. She was singing in a way that made the whole room feel full of magic. Curious, he put his glass down and turned up the volume. Then the screen showed her face, a familiar face. She was young, but somehow carried the same spark he once saw in Zuba. His heart skipped a beat. The host of the show was smiling, clearly amazed by the young girl. "Nyara," the host said, "you have taken the world by storm. Where do you get this incredible voice and strength?" Nyara smiled brightly and answered without even thinking. "My mother," she said. "She gave up everything so I could live. She struggled, worked day and night, and believed in me when no one else did. I owe her my voice. Everything I am, everything I will be, is because of her love." Hearing those words hit Effie like a punch to the chest. His hand trembled, and he almost dropped the glass he was holding. He leaned closer to the TV, his eyes wide with shock. The memories he had tried so hard to bury came rushing back. The night he told Zuba to choose between him and the baby, the way she had packed her bags silently and walked away. He remembered how cold he had been, how sure he was that getting rid of them was the right thing for his plans. Now here she was, the child he didn't want, the child he thought would ruin his life, had grown into someone the whole world was celebrating. Nyara was not just any girl, she was a star, and the world loved her not only for her voice, but for her heart, her strength, her spirit, all the things he never stayed around to see. Effie sat there frozen, feeling something he hadn't felt in a very long time. Regret, deep, burning regret. No amount of success or comfort he had now could erase the truth. He had given up a treasure. He had thrown away something priceless. And now the whole world could see the shining star he once rejected. But for him, it was too late. All he could do was sit there and watch the daughter he never got to know shine without him. After seeing Nyara on TV, Effie's heart couldn't rest. Guilt filled him day and night. He kept thinking about the choice he made all those years ago, the moment he pushed Zuba and their unborn child away. Now that he knew who Nyara had become, he wanted to fix it. He wanted to be part of her life, to say he was sorry, to somehow be forgiven. So he started trying to reach out. First, he wrote letters, long, tear-stained letters, where he poured out his regrets, saying how sorry he was for everything, how proud he was of the woman Nyara had become. He sent those letters to every address he could find online. He even sent direct messages on social media, begging her to just give him a chance to explain. He promised he had changed. He promised he would never hurt her again. When there was no reply, he went even further. He found out about a press event Nyara was attending and showed up there, standing far back in the crowd. He watched her smiling and shining under the lights, giving interviews, signing autographs. His heart broke all over again, seeing how beautiful, strong, and full of life she was. He tried to get closer, holding one of his letters in his hand, hoping she would see him, hoping she would listen. But Zuba was there too. She spotted him immediately. Without a word, without any emotion, she signaled to security. They made sure he didn't even get a step closer. It was like a cold wall had risen between them, stronger than steel. Zuba had protected Nyara all her life, and she wasn't going to let the man who once abandoned them cause any more pain. Later, when Nyara was shown one of his letters, she took a moment to read it carefully. She held the paper in her hands, the words full of tears and regret staring back at her. For a second, maybe a small part of her heart ached, but then she remembered growing up without a father, remembered seeing her mother crying at night, remembered every time she had needed a dad and there was no one there. With a steady hand, Nyara tore the letter in two. Her voice was calm but strong when she said, "He left before I even had a name, before I could even say daddy. He doesn't deserve to know who I've become. My story is mine and my mother's. He gave up the right to be part of it a long time ago." And just like that, Ife's last hope crumbled. No matter how much he wanted to fix the past, it was too late. Some mistakes cost too much to ever be repaired. He had walked away once when it mattered most, and now all he could do was watch from a distance, knowing he would never truly be part of the beautiful life he had thrown away. While the world cheered for Nyara, while cameras flashed and fans screamed her name, Zuba stayed quietly in the background. She never wanted fame. She never wanted the spotlight. She didn't chase interviews. She didn't show up on red carpets in fancy dresses. All she wanted was to see her daughter happy, to see Nyara living the life she fought so hard to give her. Zuba was the woman behind the scenes, the one who prayed in silence, who worked 2 jobs, who cried in private and smiled in public just to keep Nyara's dreams alive. But Nyara never let the world forget her. Every time she stepped on a stage, every time she accepted an award, every time a reporter put a microphone in her face, she spoke Zuba's name with pride. "My mother is the reason I shine," she would say again and again, with tears sometimes filling her eyes. "She gave up everything so I could have everything. Every note I sing, every dream I chase, it's all because of her." Nyara made sure everyone knew that behind her success, there was a woman who never gave up, even when the world turned its back on her. Behind every beautiful dress Nyara wore was a mother who once patched up old clothes just to keep her warm. Behind every glittering trophy was a mother who once worked overnight shifts just to buy a pair of singing shoes. Behind every powerful song Nyara sang was a mother's lullaby, whispered on nights when there was no money, no food, just love. Reporters asked Zuba many times to come forward, to stand beside her daughter, to share in the fame, but she always shook her head gently and smiled. "This is her time," she said. "I had my time when I chose to be her mother. That is enough for me." In every photo, if you looked closely, you could often find Zuba, standing a few steps behind, eyes full of pride, heart full of love. She didn't need applause. She didn't need cameras. She didn't need the world to know her sacrifices. Her reward was watching Nyara soar, and Nyara made a promise. Every time she sang, every time she spoke, every time the world listened, that she would never let her mother's love and sacrifices be forgotten. She wore her mother's strength like a crown. She carried her mother's dreams in every song, because behind every bright light, there is a shadow, and sometimes that shadow is stronger, braver, and more beautiful than anything the world will ever see. Zuba was that shadow, and Nyara was her light. Together, they were unstoppable. Years later, when Nyara had grown into a strong and famous young woman, she decided to do something even bigger than singing. She opened a foundation for single mothers and named it 2 Lines. The same 2 lines Zuba had seen on the pregnancy test that changed everything. It was a place where struggling mothers could find help, hope, and love, just like Zuba once needed. Nyara said it was her way of giving back, of honoring the woman who gave her life and never gave up. The world couldn't help but notice the story behind it. They wanted to know the woman who had inspired it all. They wanted to know the mother who had fought so hard, so silently. So, in a beautiful ceremony filled with tears and standing ovations, Zuba was named Woman of the Year. Cameras flashed, people cheered, and Nyara stood right beside her, holding her hand tightly, just like she had done all her life. When a reporter asked Zuba how she had found the strength to keep going through all the pain, the betrayals, the sleepless nights, and the endless struggles, Zuba gave a soft, knowing smile. Her voice was calm, but filled with deep, unshakable power. She simply said, "Because I knew the baby he didn't want would become someone the world could never ignore." Her words touched everyone who heard them. People cried, people clapped, people felt something powerful move inside their hearts. Because in that one simple sentence, Zuba told a story of love, courage, and belief. A story that proved that sometimes the things people throw away can grow into the most beautiful treasures. That pain can turn into power. That rejection can create resilience. Zuba didn't just survive, she thrived. She turned heartbreak into hope. She turned tears into strength. She turned a silent goodbye into a loud, unstoppable song through her daughter. And now, because of her, hundreds and thousands of other mothers would get a second chance too. Zuba's voice, though quiet and humble, echoed far beyond her own life. It traveled through Nyara's songs, through the Foundation's work, through every woman who would find shelter, strength, and a new beginning because Zuba once refused to give up. She had once been a scared young woman with nothing but a suitcase and a secret hope growing inside her. Now, she was a symbol of unbreakable love. A woman who proved that sometimes the world's most unforgettable voices come from the ones who dared to believe, even when no one else did.